Oh, hey there. Welcome to the Nostalgiceum, where looking back at the past is a great way to spend the present. I am your host, Nostalgic Travis, and today I'd like to talk about why I haven't had content in a while. Well, basically, it's summer, and with summer work schedules being a little more active and summer projects around the house, plus summer trips, I just haven't had as much time to dedicate to making more content. But I would like to talk about one of the trips that I did take, which is I went to the Washington State SummerCon in Washington State in June. Now, this was a Comic Con that featured the cast of Daredevil, Born Again, and also the Daredevil series on Netflix. It also had William Shatner, Walter Koenig. It had Kevin Eastman. I mean, it had all sorts of entertainment and comic book guests. And I was able to go as a super fan because one of the main phrases in nostalgia nowadays is disposable income. And I have a better disposable income now. And so I was able to experience a lot of the fan experience. So it was a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I spent a lot of time Friday and Saturday standing in line, getting autographs on memorabilia. And I'd like to talk about that right now. So first off, we got there on a Friday, and the first booth that I went to was Timothy Zahn's booth. Now, Timothy Zahn is an author who wrote Star Wars books in the early 90s. Now, I think I mentioned before, I loved Star Wars as a kid, but there wasn't any Star Wars content between the end of Return of the Jedi and the early 90s when Timothy Zahn started writing these 3 books. Timothy Zahn's books are not necessarily canon in the Star Wars sense. He does have a character, though, that made it through, who is canon, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now, I'm not really necessarily a fan of the animated Star Wars series. I don't have anything against them. I just never really got into them, and I don't think at this time in my life I would have the time to go back and watch the animated series. But anyways, one of the big characters in the animated series is Grand Admiral Thrawn, who, like I said, was created by Timothy Zahn. Anyways, so in the early 90s, I got the 3 Timothy Zahn books, and for whatever reason, I saved them for 30 plus years. And so when I found out he was going to this Comic Con, I pulled the books out and I had them signed. He's a great guy. He signed all my books for free. And it was just really great to meet him and to tell him how much I appreciated his work. Now, the next line I stood in was for Captain Kirk, William Shatner. His line was a very, very long line, and got to meet a lot of different people standing in line who were also waiting to meet Captain Kirk. Eventually, when I made my way through the line to meet him, I got an NES game, Star Trek 25th Anniversary Edition, signed by him. And I was able to tell him that I appreciated his work, and that my dad and I both watched the original series and all the movies, all the Star Trek movies that came out in the 80s together. Now, right next to William Shatner was Walter Koenig, of course, who played Chekhov. And so I figured, why not have Walter Koenig also sign my video game cover? And so I did. Also a nice experience. Got a chance to say just hi, appreciate your work. The next person who I got an autograph from was Eldon Henson, who played Foggy Nelson in the Daredevil series. Now, he's a very wonderful person. He was very chatty. He had a lot of nice things to say to everyone who was in his line. So I got a comic book cover signed by him. Now, Deborah Ann Woll, who played Karen Page, was also supposed to be at the Comic-Con. She had prior commitments that pulled her away from the SummerCon, but I originally had a comic book cover with Foggy Nelson and Karen Page, and I was going to have them both sign it, but as it turns out, I only have Foggy Nelson's autograph. So that was day one. I'm going to make another video talking about day two because it was more full of standing in line, meeting people. So stay tuned for that. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. If you do like my content, if you want to comment, that'd be great. And we'll see you next time. So long.